I'll talk you through a little bit of the info that I have got. The reason I chose that dude, just thinking about the whole dentist theme. The first thing that you'll want to do is you'll claim your listing, as I talked about. So if your listing's there or not, you can click that link, or you can add a new one. So if you don't find your business, and hopefully it'll load in a little bit, you can go to add a new one, and then you just follow through. It's at Google Places. If you just search Google Places, it'll come up. The couple of rules of thumb that I recommend that you do. Firstly, it's a good idea when you do claim your listing to make sure that the email that you enter in should be the email of the domain name that you're trying to rank for. This is something that a lot of people miss. Because what Google's looking at doing by grabbing this extra information, it wants to really verify that, yes, this is you, yes, this is your listing. Because you can imagine what it would be like if your competitor was there and you jumped in, claimed his listing. So they want to make 100% sure. So everything that we can do to make sure that we further verify the listing is going to weigh in our favour. So what I'm talking about there is if we were claiming Melbourne SEO Services, it'd be Dave@Melbourne SEO Services. That's the email address you'd register. The next thing, when you enter in your company name as well, don't use any funny business. We did stuff early on where we really tried to heavily load our keyword that we wanted to come up for into that title. Google got wise to that and they said, no, we really don't like that game. We want your business to be listed as you would find it on your letterhead. So again, that's another one of those benefits as to why we tried to incorporate Melbourne SEO Services into our name, because we get to use our name as well for things like Google Local. There's a whole lot of factors that come into play here. If we have a look at, depending on how it's done, I think they just don't want anything to look too spammy. So if we have a look at Heather's website, and we'll see if we can get it here. We did sneak some extra keywords in here. Now we put ISC, and we also put in ISO consultants. Now, this causes it to come up for that keyword, but it's got to feel a little bit like a company name. So for this one's doing quite well because it's in a less competitive landscape. You might, if it's in a really competitive landscape, slightly need to tweak it without trying to stuff too many keywords in there. The next thing, you need to, when you enter in your Google Local listing, make sure you put your real physical address in. That's important. You can hide it at a later stage. So let's say you're a mobile mechanic and you don't really have a physical address, then you can hide it later if you don't want them coming around to your house or whatever. So put your real address in, and it's all got to do with that verification. The big thing early on is you want to make sure that you tick all of Google's boxes so they go, yep, this is a listing that we can trust and verify. Then you've got, select the categories that you want to get assigned to. And hopefully when Google loads in a moment, I'll take you in to see this. But when you type in categories, it will pre-populate the categories for you. It's a good idea to use their pre-populated categories first. So let's say it's physio. You'd start typing in physio, kind of like, when you're on Google and you start typing a word and it does all the predictive text as to what it thinks you're trying to type in. The same thing happens in Google Local. So it's a good idea as you're adding these listings to use some of those pre-approved Google categories. You can add some additional ones in there, but it's always good to start off by using those categories. Question for Ian up the front.
Not so much a question. When you're typing in something in Google and you do get those drop-down boxes, that's a great way to find keywords for yourself.
Yes, it is. There you go. Yeah, because it's Google telling you what it is that it thinks are the most relevant keywords. So that's good insight there. So those categories, you want to make sure that once you've loaded in the main categories that Google suggests, I think you get to choose maybe about 6 or 7 different categories. So maybe choose between 3 and 4 categories that Google suggests, but then also load in some of your keywords in there as well into some of the other categories. Then you get to enter in some additional information. You get to enter in your hours, the photos of the business, videos. You can embed in YouTube videos and additional notes. So what we're looking at doing here is adding as much content in there because you want to show Google, yes, we're managing this listing, and it also looks good from a user perspective if someone clicks on it to find out more about your business and they get a nice little photo and they get some extra little videos and that type of thing. So you want to make sure that you fill out that detail as much as you can. And then the final stage, once you pre-populate all these things, it's quite easy. As soon as you click that button I was talking about, a screen pops up where it asks you to enter in all of this information. And then you just need to verify your listing. And the way that they do that, you can either select by phone or by mailer. So if it's by phone, you need to select a phone number that you have handy that you can just, because they'll call straight away and they'll give you a 4-digit PIN. And then you head back over to Google Places and enter that 4-digit PIN in. So you just want to make sure, don't have it go through, you know, how some companies have those big, long, you know, you call them up and it's those call systems. Yeah, and they're like big trees and, you know, you need to press 1 to do this, press 2 to do that. If you've got one of those services, it's probably best to do a mailer. But I like using the phone where possible because it means you'll get verified straight away.